Okay guys, let's talk about demoting a domain controller. Now in this case I have two DCs in my domain. In fact, let me go to Tools and Active Directory Users and Computers, and we'll look at, once a DC opens, under domain controllers you see we have here server David 1, David 2. I'm currently on server David 2. Now I want to demote this thing from being a domain controller. Now, used to be we had a little tool called DC Promo, which was very convenient. You'd install Active Directory, the Active Directory tool, and then you'd have to run the command DC Promo to promote it. Now we know that's not the case anymore because we get this little pop-up here that tells us, hey, you can run, or you need to promote this to a domain controller here. Now if you try to run DC Promo, and you do the same thing, you'd run DC Promo to demote the domain controller as well. Well, now instead of running DC Promo to demote the domain controller, you go to Manage, Remove Roles and Features. And you tell it you want to remove Active Directory Users and Computers, or Active Directory Domain Services. Let me get the right name here. And say Remove Features. All right, it actually won't do that because it can't remove it while it is a domain controller. And so here it tells you we can't do this. The Active Directory domain controller needs to be demoted before the ADDS role can be removed. And here's our link to demote the domain controller. So we'll click that and this will start our demotion. Now, first off, who are we going to do this with? And we have the option to change it. We can force removal of the domain controller. Now, when you force removal, you're going to have to clean up a bunch of other stuff afterwards, the metadata for the domain controller. So just go ahead and leave that unchecked for the moment. Notice this down here, the server will be automatically restarted after the domain operation. And then we remove the role after we perform the restart. So we'll click Next. And then here are warnings. This is what this is currently hosting. It's currently a DNS server, a global catalog server. These are going away. It should also tell you, by the way, if you have any flexible single master operations roles, FSMO roles on this thing. So I'm going to say proceed with the removal. And then I need to give it a new administrator password. Now what's going to happen is the administrator account, the local administrator account, has been disabled because it's a domain controller. We can't use it. So now we need to set a password to be used for that account. And that will be our new administrator password when the system comes up, no longer as a domain controller. Review our options, everything is good, click demote, and this will begin the demotion process. That's really all there is to it. Now, there's one other thing, and that is if you're taking down a server, if it looks to see if it can find any of the domain controllers. If it can't, then it's going to give you a checkbox back where you had the option to force removal. It's going to give us a checkbox that says this is the last domain controller. And that's just a notification that yes, this is the last domain controller, and go ahead and take it offline, take the domain offline. So that's about all there is to demoting a domain controller. So I'm going to go ahead and let this thing reboot, and then we'll pick up our next video in a few minutes.